Hello everyone, we're back here in the shop again today. It's been a little bit since I posted a video. And the reason I'm going to document this one here is I've done a ton of research and I've not seen where anybody's taken an older CNC like this and instead of spending, you know, $5,000–$10,000 to put an upgrade kit on it, I'm going to document this and with the hopes that you guys can help me. It has older Fanuc Red Top, which has the encoder that it uses for their AC servos. The encoder is a little odd. So what I'm going to try and do, this whole process is still in flux, obviously. I'm still not sure what direction I'm going in. I got the machine for pretty much the price of the scrap. So I'm kind of excited about upgrading the machine and getting it working. The other machine that I had upgraded in the fall of last year, I love it, works great. It's just having to change the tools out when I'm making parts for my robotics is driving me bonkers. So I'm gonna try and do something a little odd. I'm gonna use an acorn, I think. That's still even up in the air because it's depending on what drives I go with. Pico CNC or Pico has an encoder adapter board and a drive that'll work on this, but it only works, well, I guess, with a Fanuc CNC. He emailed me back. So I am gonna get an Allen Bradley drive, 3000. I've read some documentation that if I set this up correctly, I can use just the Allen Bradley drive, and they're not too expensive on eBay. The 3000 series uses pulse and direction, so that'll give me an opportunity to use that Acorn 3000 instead of the more expensive Centroid controller, which is about $1,500. You can get a conversion system already turnkey, but it's over 10 grand for something like this from Centroid. I think 13,000 I think is what I seen. But I'm just going to show you a little bit what I'm doing right now. I've pulled the servo drive on the axis off. I got the servo drive out, as you can tell. The encoder's hanging there. The machine, actually, believe it or not, I did power the machine up before I picked it up and we moved it. Everything was working on the machine except the Y-axis servo era. I probably could have fixed it. However, with that said, hopefully we've got enough light back here inside the cabinet. But with that said, we're still looking at an old servo system. I mean, a old Fanuc controller OMC. And it's just a little outdated. As you can see, you know, we got the older Fanuc electronics in here. This machine's right against my door, as you can tell from the earlier video. So I'm not going to be able to get a wide shot of this until it warms up and I can open this overhead door behind me. But what I'm looking at doing is ripping all the electronics out. If anybody's interested in needing any of these electronics for these older Fanuc controls, let me know. Work something out. I'm not trying to, I just don't want to throw them away. So I'm not going to hurt your feelings at all as far as what I'd want for them. But I hope this is enlightening. This is my new build, and I'm looking forward to getting it started. Hopefully we can, if all goes well, hopefully I can be making chips on this by spring. I'm hoping. Fingers crossed, right? The other option was there's some NEMA 42s with 20 Newton meters of holding torque. They're about 3.5 on eBay, but they're Chinese. I really don't want to use Chinese, but it's just a hobby and I don't want to spend a ton of money. I don't do this for a living. I don't charge anything for any, you know, tinkering or making anything because I don't do it for anybody. I just don't feel like I'm good enough. But I've never done a conversion using this large of a CNC machine. I've done some repairs on some larger CNCs, but I've never done a conversion on one. The only servo conversion I've ever done is on, I used some Gecko drives on a servo system. I've done a ton of stepper conversions and builds, but this will be the first one. If anybody's got any ideas how I can modify that, I'm thinking about taking this screen out and putting a touch screen in there. There's some pretty cool stuff I can adapt. I want it to kind of keep the look that this has, even though the look's a little bit dated, but it's still functional. I really like the way it's set up. And I obviously have enough room to put a motherboard for probably a tower or something, a little AT form factor in there, and probably put the Centroid controller in the back cabinet, so the distance between the controller and the servo drives, the cabling, it'll be shielded, but it'll be as short as possible. And then I'll run an Ethernet cable from this console to back there, as well as I'll have to run some cables for the pulse encoder, the MPG, the manual pulse encoder, and all the other controls. But that's where we're at. This is the project we've undertaken. At this point, I've done many hours of research on this thing. It's a beast. That's 7,200 pounds. It's a beast. My biggest concern is getting that 5.6 kW kilowatts Fanuc Red Cap to work the servo drive for the spindle. That's my only worry at this point. The rest of the stuff, you know, $350 an axis, I can use the Chinese stuff, which the motors, these Fanucs, these 1.6, I believe the ones that are in there are 8 Newton meters of holding torque. I could go to the cheap ones. I think they're 12 Newton meters, and they've got some, like I said, they've got some 20 Newton meter for, like, I think $349, $389 on eBay with the controller, but they're not servo. They're the hybrid stepper. So I'm probably not going to get the same speed out of those motors. It would work for what I'm doing. If I ever went to resell it to upgrade, eventually I'd like to get a Haas little mini mill, but I can't afford that right now. So this is where we're at, and this is the direction we're going. Hopefully we'll have it up and running. Thanks for looking, but this is where I'm going. If you've got suggestions, I'm going to post this under CNC Fanuc, Cryo, OMC upgrade. If you've got some suggestions, I really appreciate it. Post them in the comments, help me out, get this thing going. I want to make this an interactive project. You guys make suggestions, and I'll implement your suggestions, kind of field them with everybody, but I'm trying to do this the least expensive way I can because it's a hobby. So for those pros out there that are awesome with Fanuc or Centroid, help me out here. Let's get this machine up and running, but I just can't afford to spend 10 grand to modify it. I can buy a VF3 or VF1 rather on Facebook Market right now for 16,000. Turnkey with a 4th axis. So obviously 13 grand in this machine is not going to happen. So anyways, here we go. We're going to post it. I'm looking for your comments and your feedback to help me out. Thanks guys for watching.